Chapter 18 of The Clue of the New Pin by Edgar Wallace. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Yoganand. The Clue of the New Pin. Chapter 18. The Chinaman was unconscious, and Carver looked around for the second visitant. He rushed to the gate. The road was deserted. Flinging himself upon the roadway to secure an artificial skyline, he peered first in one direction and then in the other. Presently he saw his man running swiftly in the cover of the hedges and started in pursuit. 100 yards away from the house was a secondary road, and into this the runner turned. As Carver reached the corner, he heard a motor car engine and dimly saw the bulk of a large touring car retreating rapidly. He came back to the house to find Yealing sitting in Ursula's room holding his head in his hand. "This is the second man. It isn't the wide-awake gentleman," said Carver. "Now, Yealing, give an account of your actions. How are you feeling?" "Pretty dizzy," said Yealing, and to Tab's surprise his tone was that of a cultured man, his English faultless. He looked up at the girl reproachfully. "You did not tell me these gentlemen were coming down, Miss Artfin, when you wrote to me," he said. "I hadn't any idea when I wrote that they were coming, Yealing," she answered. "If I had been here a little earlier I should have seen him," he said. "As it was, I'm afraid I've spoiled your evening, Mr. Carver." His expressionless brown eyes looked up at the detective. "I see. You were on guard too, were you?" said Carver good-humouredly. "Yes, we seem to have made a mess of it between us. Did you see the man?" "I didn't see him," said Yealing. "But," he added, "I felt him," and he rubbed his head. "I think it must have been his fist. I did not notice any weapon." "You didn't see his face?" persisted Carver. "No, he had a beard of some kind. I felt it as my hands clutched at him. I'm afraid I overestimated my strength," he said apologetically to the girl. "Yet there was a time when I was a star performer at Harvard, in the days when Chinese students were something of a curiosity." "Harvard?" said Tab in surprise. "Great Moses, I thought you were a—" He couldn't very well finish his sentence, but the other helped him. "You thought I was a very ordinary chink?" he said. "Possibly I am. I hope I am," he said. "Certainly Miss Artfin knew me when I was a very poor chink. We lodged in the same house, she will remember, and she placed me under an eternal obligation by saving the life of my son." Then Tab remembered the little Chinese boy Ursula had nursed when she herself was little more than a child. Remembering this, a great many things which had been obscure to him became clear and understandable. "I had no idea you would come tonight, Yealing, but you begged me if I was in any kind of difficulty to let you know," she said. "You shouldn't have taken the trouble." "Events seem to prove that," said the Chinaman dryly. "I'm merely being consistent, Miss Artfin. You have been under my personal observation for 7 years. 7 years, day and night. Either I or one of my servants have been watching you. You never went—" He stopped and changed the conversation. "Miss Artfin never went to Mr. Trasmia's house, but you weren't watching outside." "That's what you were going to say, wasn't it, Yealing?" smiled Carver. "You need not be reticent, because I know all about it, and Miss Artfin knows that I know." "That was what I was going to say," said the other. "I usually followed Miss Artfin from the theatre to a hotel, from a hotel to Trasmia's house, and home again when she had finished working." The reporter and detective exchanged glances. This, then, was the explanation of the mysterious Chinaman who had been seen by Mr. Stott's servant waiting outside Mayfield, smoking a cigar in the cold hours of the morning. It explained also the appearance of the cyclist in the roadway that morning, when the tires of Ursula Artfin's car had burst, and Tab had been on hand to render timely assistance. "I had no idea," breathed the astonished girl. "Is that true, Yealing?" "Oh, how kind you have been!" Tab saw tears in her eyes, and wished that he, and not this uninteresting Chinaman, had been the person who excited her gratitude. "Kindness is a relative term," said Yealing. He had brought his feet up on a chair and was rolling a cigarette. He had asked permission with his eyes, and as Ursula nodded, he lit it with a quick flick of his fingers, a match having appeared as it seemed out of space, and carefully replaced the stock in a matchbox. "Was it kindness that you saved the life of one who is to me the light of my eyes and the inspiration of my soul? If you will forgive what may seem to you a writer, Mr. Holland, a piece of flowery Orientalism, but which is to me the quintessence of sincerity." Then, without preamble, he told a story which was only half known to the girl. "I was in this peculiar position," he said, "that I was a rich man, or a poor man, whichever way the great law of this country interprets an agreement I made with Shiso. Shiso, as Trasmia, and that of course is his name. On the Amur River, we called him Shiso. I came to this country many years ago and worked in the restaurant of which I am now proprietor. I do not mean the Golden Roof, but the little place in Reed Street. The man who owned it lost all his money at Fantan, and I bought it a bargain. You may wonder why a man of education and the son of a great clan should be here in this country playing the humble part of waiter in a Chinese restaurant. I might tell you, he said simply and without conscious humor, that education in China, when it is applied to political objectives, is not always popular, and I left China hurriedly. That, however, is all past. The Manchu has gone. The old empress, the daughter of heaven, is dead, and Li Hung is asleep on the terraces of the night. I was making slow progress when Mr. Trasmere came one night. I did not recognize him at first. When I knew him first, he was a very strong, healthy man with a reputation for being cruel to his employees. I have known him to burn men to death in order to make them reveal where they had hidden gold which they had stolen from the diggings. We talked of old times, and then he asked me if there was money to be made in the restaurant business. I told him there was, and that was the beginning of the partnership which lasted until the day of his death. 3/4 of the profits of the Golden Roof was paid every Monday to Mr. Trasmere, and that was our agreement. It was the only agreement that we had, except one which I myself wrote at his dictation and which placed on record this fact, that in the event of his dying, the whole of the property should come to me. It was signed by me and my Hong, and by him with his Hong, which he always carried in his pocket. The Hong, interrupted Carver, is a small ivory stamp with a Chinese character at the end. It's carried in a thin ivory case, rather like a pencil case, isn't it? Yearling nodded. I kept the document until a few days before his death, when he asked me to let him take it away with him to make a copy. It will be news to you, though perhaps not to you, Miss Artfin, that Mr. Trasmere spoke and wrote Chinese with greater ease than I, who am almost an authority upon Mandarin. A few days later he was murdered. My only hope of saving myself from ruin was to find that agreement which he had taken away in my little lacquer box. But could they touch your restaurant? Are there any other documents in existence which would give Mr. Trasmere's heir the right of interfering with you? Yearling looked at him steadily. It does not need a document, he said quietly. We Chinese are peculiar people. If Mr. Lander came to me on his return from Italy and said, Yearling, this property is my uncle's in which you have a small share, I would reply, that is true. And if the agreement which we two men had not signed was not discovered, I should make no effort at law to preserve my rights. And he meant it. Tab knew as he spoke that he was telling the truth. He could only marvel that such an exalted code of honor could be held by a man who subconsciously he regarded as one of an inferior race and of an inferior civilization. You found the agreement? Yes, sir, said Yearling. It had been taken out of the box in which I gave it to Mr. Trasmere and placed elsewhere, but I found it and other documents of no immediate interest. As to my coming here tonight, apart from your letter, lady, I was anxious to meet the black man also. Yes, he has been watching me for many days. I am certain it is the same. He made a little grimace and rubbed his bruised head. I met him, he said. Carver jotted down a few notes in his book, and then putting the book away, he turned and faced the Chinaman squarely. Yearling, he said, who murdered Jessie Trasmere? The Chinaman shook his head. I do not know, he said simply. To me it is amazing. There must be a secret passage that opens into the vault. I can think of no other way in which the murderer could have got in or out. If there is a secret way, said the detective grimly, then it is the best kept secret I have known. It has certainly been kept a secret from men who built the house and the vault, and the clerk of the works who was on the spot all the time it was being erected. No, Yearling, you must get that idea out of your mind. Either the man Brown or Walters is guilty. We shall know the method they employed when we get them. Brown was not guilty, said Yearling quietly, for I was with him when the murder was committed. They heard his pronouncement with astonishment. Even the girl seemed surprised. Do you know what you are saying? I know what I am saying, and I rather wish I hadn't said it, said the Chinaman with a quick smile. Nevertheless, it is true. If the murder was committed on Saturday afternoon, then I certainly was with the man called Wellington Brown, but whom we call the drinker or the unemployed one at that hour. It embarrasses me to say how or where. It would embarrass me more if you were to ask me whether I know his whereabouts at the present moment. To that question I should answer no. "And you would lie," said Carver quietly. "I should lie," was the calm answer. "Yet I tell you, Mr. Carver, that Wellington Brown was with me, under my eye, from 1:30 in the afternoon of the Saturday on which Jessie Trustmere was killed, until night." Carver eyed him keenly. "When he came to you?" he asked. "How was he dressed?" The other shrugged his shoulders. "Poorly. He has always been dressed poorly." "Did he wear gloves?" "No, he had no gloves. That was the first thing I noticed, because he was, what do you call it in English, fastidious to a degree. In the hottest day I have seen him wearing gloves. A shabby dandy, that's the expression I was seeking. I'm sorry to disappoint you." "You haven't disappointed me," said Carver bitterly. "You have merely added another brick wall between me and my objective." Yearling left soon after. He had bicycled down from town and cheerfully undertook the long return journey in preference to spending the remainder of the night at the cottage. It was too late for Ursula to go to a hotel, and they sat up all night, Carver playing an interminable game of solitaire, while Stab and the girl walked about the garden in the growing light and talked oddly of incongruous things. As soon as it was light, Carver went out to find the place where the car had stood and to examine wheel tracks. He gained little from his inspection, except that the tires were new and that the car was a powerful one, which was hardly a discovery. The man who drove was not a skilled driver, or else he was very nervous. Halfway up the lane he nearly swerved into a ditch and came into collision with a telegraph pole, which must have damaged his mudguard severely. I found flakes of brand new enamel attached to the damaged wood, so I guessed that the car also had not been long from the maker's hands. Thus passed the second appearance of the man in black. The third was to come in yet a more dramatic fashion. The end of chapter 18.